When we talk about knee pain from osteoarthritis, we're not talking about just a minor ache. For millions of people, it's this debilitating condition that just grinds daily life to a halt. It's a slow, progressive breakdown of the very cartilage that lets us move around freely. So, what happens when all the standard treatments just stop working? Okay, let's dive into a real-world case that shines a light on a really fascinating and evolving treatment.
So let's meet the person at the heart of our story. This was the reality for a 60-year-old woman. And this isn't just some abstract clinical description. It's a life that's been seriously constrained. Just try to imagine the simple act of walking to the store, or, going up a flight of stairs to visit a friend, becoming this huge, painful obstacle. This quote really captures that struggle, the kind of day in, day out challenge that makes people desperate for help.
And this number says it all. On a pain scale from 1 to 10, she was living at an 8. That is not background noise. That is severe, persistent pain every single day. When you see a number like that, you can totally understand the search, the desperation for a solution that offers real, lasting relief.
Now, her story is probably a familiar one for a lot of people. She had a long history of osteoarthritis in both knees, and to make things more complicated, she'd had surgeries on them 20 years ago. And she tried all the first-line defenses, the usual suspects. Physical therapy to try and strengthen the joint, NSAIDs, that stuff like ibuprofen to keep the inflammation down, even corticosteroid shots for a bit of temporary relief. But nothing gave her a lasting fix. Surgery was an option, but it wasn't on the immediate horizon.
This is where her story takes a really interesting turn. Instead of just more painkillers or going straight to a total knee replacement, her doctor suggested something different, visosupplementation. So what is it? It involves injecting hyaluronic acid, you'll hear it called HA, directly into the knee joint. The big idea? To try and restore the joint's natural, healthy environment, and hopefully finally break that relentless cycle of pain.
So you're probably wondering, what's this injection actually doing in there? For a long time, the thinking was pretty straightforward. It's basically just lubrication, kind of like adding oil to a rusty hinge. But oh man, the science has come a long, long way since then. We now know this is a much more sophisticated biological treatment.
And what's so cool about this is the huge shift in thinking it represents. The old idea, the mechanical effect, well, it's not wrong. It absolutely helps lubricate and cushion the joint. But that alone doesn't explain why the relief can last for months, way after the injection itself has been absorbed by the body. The new science, the biological effect, that's the real game changer. The HA isn't just passive oil. It's more like a team of highly skilled technicians being sent into the joint's factory to tell the workers, the cells, hey, get back to your jobs, reduce this inflammation, and start making your own high-quality lubricant again.
And this is exactly what those technicians are doing. The HA acts as a biological trigger. It actively goes to work reducing the nasty chemicals that cause inflammation. It literally shields the nerve endings in the joint, which helps block pain signals. And this is the magic part. It stimulates the joint to start producing its own good stuff again, its own natural hyaluronic acid. It's essentially reteaching the joint how to take care of itself, all while protecting the precious cartilage cells that are left.
So here's the crucial point, and it's something that's caused a ton of confusion and debate in the medical world for years. Not all hyaluronic acid is created equal, not even close. It really all comes down to the chemical structure of the molecule itself.
So this really begs the question, are all these injections pretty much the same thing? The simple answer is absolutely not. And understanding the difference here is the key to figuring out why some treatments might work better or have different side effects than others. This whole issue has led researchers to come up with a much clearer way of classifying all these products.
This new classification system you see here really cuts through all the noise. And the main difference is actually pretty simple. You just have to ask one question. Is the HA linear, meaning it's chemically the same as what your body produces naturally, or is it cross-linked, meaning scientists have chemically modified it to create a thicker, more robust synthetic gel? That's the first and most important distinction. Is it natural, or is it modified?
And this right here, this is the heart of the debate. Let's put them head to head. Linear HA's superpower is its biocompatibility. Because it's identical to what's already in your body, your cells recognize it, and the risk of a bad reaction is much lower. Now, cross-linked HA was designed to solve a problem. It sticks around longer in the joint. But that chemical modification comes with a trade-off. There's a higher risk that your immune system might see it as a foreign invader and launch an attack, causing a pretty nasty inflammatory reaction.
Okay, so with all this complexity, how in the world do doctors figure out who is most likely to actually benefit from this stuff? This is where expert guidelines are just incredibly important. They help match the right patient to the right treatment.
Well, we can look to what the experts say. A group of top European specialists, they call themselves Eurovisco, recently published their big consensus on this exact question. They dug through all the evidence and used all their clinical experience to create a set of recommendations for who the ideal candidate really is.
And here are some other key takeaways, kind of like the cheat sheet. It's a big yes for patients with mild to moderate osteoarthritis, not the super severe end-stage kind. Age isn't really a factor. It can work for any adult. And this is really important. It's a great option for people who have other conditions, like diabetes or obesity, where treatments like steroids or a lot of NSAIDs can be pretty risky. The one time they say to hold off, during a really bad acute flare-up where the knee is super swollen. You got to calm that down first.
Which brings us right back to our patient. She really fit the profile of a perfect candidate, right? Moderate OA, other treatments had failed. So what happened? Did it work?
You bet it did. Remember where she started? A miserable 8 out of 10. After her injections, her pain score dropped all the way down to a 3. That is a massive, life-changing difference. It's the difference between being a prisoner of your pain and getting your freedom and your mobility back.
But a number is just a number. What does that actually feel like in the real world? Well, here it is, in her own words. Remember how she couldn't walk a single block or climb stairs? Just 4 weeks later, she was walking several blocks and climbing stairs with just minimal discomfort. That is the goal, a real, tangible improvement in someone's quality of life.
And her success really points us toward the future. It shows the incredible power of using a biological approach. But what's next? Well, researchers are already exploring combination therapies. They're using hyaluronic acid as this perfect carrier to deliver other regenerative treatments, like platelet-rich plasma, or PRP, right into the joint. So the question we're left with is this: are we heading toward a future where a single custom-mixed injection could not only stop the pain, but actively trigger the joint to repair itself? It's an absolutely fascinating new frontier.